All righty. So, got about 40 minutes today. It'll be similar setup compared to last time. I want you guys to use the chat throughout the whole time. Um, and man, like I was thinking right before this started, like, kind of reflecting on the last one as well. The last thing I want this to be is boring for you guys. And the last thing I want this to feel like is like you're sitting in school again. Because I get it. You sit in school for 6 hours all day and you do that 5 days a week. And you're in the lecture setting. And so I do not want this to feel like that for you. I want you to get something out of it. And for our younger players, again, anyone in our organization, from our youngest team that's 9U up to our oldest team that's 16U, so we got 12 teams across the board. I get it for the younger players. It's like mindset training. What is this? You're not really sure about it. You're not sure how it relates to you. You kind of do, but you kind of don't. And thinking back when I was your age, I get that. But the more you guys start to understand these things, I'm telling you, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for a really big reason. I believe these things are going to transform your season and your career long term when you start to apply the things we're talking about. And then, our older players, look at a fair amount of guys in high school now. This is where it's really, really going to start to show. And for me, when I was in high school, that's when I really started to realize how important the mental game was. Whether I batted 250 that season or 400, it wasn't always my swing. It was so much about what was living in my mind and what was my mental approach and where was I at from a mental standpoint. That alone was sometimes a difference maker between a good season and a bad season. So I want to kind of kick it off by touching on what we talked about last session. And so put in the chat, what were our three goals? I gave you guys three goals from last session. It's kind of like your homework. What were the three things I wanted you to do over the past 4 weeks? So if you know, put it in the chat. Isaac, work harder. Good. That was the number one. Work as hard as you can. That was goal number one. Very good. What was two and three? So work as hard as you can was number one. The second one, I'll give you the first part. Don't look left or anybody? Don't look left or right of you, meaning that you're only focused on yourself, only focused on what it is you're trying to do. You're not worried about how well or how not so well somebody's playing, whether that's on your team, whether it's an age group above you, below you, whatever. And then, Jay, good. Pick something you're going to work on and focus on being your better self. And that was really the third one. The third one was address your main focus points to get better as a player, not anybody else's. Okay. And again, like two and three are pretty much directly related. Good. All right. Very good. All right. So look, we talked about work ethic a lot last time. And now we're going to talk about some good stuff that you can really like amplify this. We're going to talk a little bit about focus. So hopefully, if you did put in a lot of work, which I know a lot of you did over the last 4 weeks, you're progressing, but maybe we're still seeing not quite there yet. There's still like more left to tap into. And so the question now as an athlete, it's like, how do you level up your focus as well so that now I can combine my hard work and my focus into even better results? Um, and as a whole, as a program, like throughout all our teams, I still think we're working on eliminating errors defensively. I still think we're trying to hit more line drives and be more consistent from an offensive perspective. Um, but, hopefully most people are at a point now where you know what it is you need to work on. We just got to be more efficient at it. All right. Um, Stop. Hold on. Axel, there we go. All right. Sorry, I wanted to click that off there. So look, when we talk about focus, here's the biggest thing that I've found from my career is when you're thinking too much about the results, it usually brings more stress. And whenever you feel more stress, you lose your ability to focus and perform, right? So when you're thinking about the result, you actually perform worse. But when I started to realize when I would just focus more on the process in the controllables, okay, things I could control, I would notice my focus would then actually increase, okay? Because I was just thinking about one thing, right? And it was one thing that I could control that, like, for example, seeing the ball off the bat, that's one thing I could control, right? Seeing the ball into my glove as a fielder, that's one thing I can control. And then the end result of those things, hitting a line drive, catching the ball, making a good throw, could happen better when I wasn't actually thinking about the result first, but more of the process. And so, like for me, I can honestly say that I've never hit a home run by trying to hit a home run. I can honestly say that. The only time I had ever hit a home run was when I was trying to square the ball up, right? I was trying to hit a good line drive, see the ball off the bat, maybe catch it out in front, maybe be on time, right? But just by focusing on one of those things was what allowed me to have my best hit. Okay, and so what does that tell you? Like, go put in the chat. What does that tell you, knowing that? And again, I give you my story just because I can tell you my own personal stories more than anyone else because it's just my own personal experience. But I think it's the same for multiple other people as well. Like your best hits, think about it. Were you actually trying to hit a home run or were you trying to do something else? And if so, what were you trying to do? I want to get three answers in the chat before I move on. What does this tell you? What what have you learned from that statement? What do we make of all this when it relates to focus and being able to actually get your best performance? Because guys, like I'll just be like I want everyone here right now to have their best season this year. Okay. And it starts with the training, it starts with working hard, but it also is kind of finished off by this stuff. Right. Like that's I know that's everyone's goal when you go into the season, but it's not about what you want, it's about what you're willing to do, right? So if you guys are willing to put in the commitment on a physical side, on a mental side, the whole package, you give yourself the best chance. Okay, I'm gonna go into the chat here. Good, I got some answers. Good. Don't overthink. Don't push yourself too hard. Anything can happen. Focusing before at bats. Just trying to make contact. And let me ask, these are all really good. Can you really control getting a hit? Like just put yes or no, whatever your thought is. Can you control getting a hit? No, 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 no. Why not? Why can't I control getting a hit? What if I hit the ball as hard as I ever hit the ball? Can I get a hit? Fielders, right? Harrison, good. I can hit the ball as hard as I've possibly ever hit it, and it could go right to the shortstop, right to the center fielder. And honestly, some of my hardest hit balls probably were outs. Line drive to center field, right? So you can't control getting a hit. Makes sense? You can control hard hit balls. You can control squaring the ball up, but there's 9, 10 fielders out there, right? And so again, we're talking about the controllables. We're trying to have quality at bats. Did we talk about quality at bats last session? Can anybody put in there yes or no? I don't remember if I did or not. No? Okay, real quick. A quality at bat is a hard hit ball. It's a walk. It's getting hit by a pitch. It's getting on base any means necessary. It's also, listen, it's also a sac fly. It's also a sac bunt. It's also moving the runner over. An RBI, even if you're out, an RBI, scoring a run for your team. Those are all quality at bats. Everybody here should only be evaluating quality at bats this season. You should not be evaluating your batting average, and you should not be looking at the end of a game when you went 0 for 4 that your batting average was 0. If you went 0 for 4 with two good lineouts, you went 2 for 4 in quality at bats, you had a day of 500 as far as quality at bats, and that's really what you should only be evaluating. Guys, when I was with the Diamondbacks, we had a sheet. We had a hitting sheet. If you weren't starting that game, you had a hitting sheet. You're filling it out for each hitter, rotated every inning. And we were only evaluating quality at bats. Okay, so it was a quality at bat sheet of all these things. And that way, at the end of your game, you don't, again, you're not going to the batting average stat sheet. You're going to the sheet that we're actually charting here. And it gives you a real indicator to whether or not you had a good game or not, and whether you controlled the things you could control. All right. And so that's what a quality at bat is. And so when we're talking about focus, that's exactly what we'd like to do. Let's focus just on that. Okay. But let me just go down here. But I really am a firm believer, guys, if you want to focus at a high level in anything that you're doing, could be baseball, could be outside of baseball, you have to first be able to eliminate distractions. Okay. You have to eliminate distractions. And this might surprise you, but sometimes focusing on the result is actually a distraction. Right? Just like I hinted at before, we don't want to focus on the result because then we get caught up with not being able to focus on the process. And while sometimes it can be good to positively think about a positive outcome, you know, it can definitely be a negative one when we're thinking about a negative outcome before something happens, Your mind doesn't filter out no. Okay, so if you're thinking in your mind, don't strike out, it usually doesn't filter out the don't part. But there's so many distractions out there. And if you want to have a good ability to focus, if you want to think clearly on something, it's not about being super smart. It's not about having everything all perfectly figured out. It's actually about simplifying. It's about eliminating the distractions. All right. And man, like for me, like when I got to Pro Bowl, I thought for some reason I had to think in at a different level, like an elite level that was different than when I was thinking at the high school level. It was intimidating. I'll be fully honest about that. But when I realized that the answer wasn't to think about being super complex. The answer was actually about trying to simplify more and eliminating distractions. Then I started having much better games. And so. And so put in the chat, what are some distractions in our game? And maybe they're things that we think help us, but really don't. I'll give you two or three to start just to kick it off, and then you guys can keep it rolling. The scoreboard is a distraction. It does not help your ability to hit the ball hard in the middle. Okay, the scoreboard does not help your ability to hit the ball hard in the middle. The other team, number two, the other team, who you're playing, how good they are, how bad they are, it has nothing to do with your ability to control a quality at bat, seeing the ball off the bat, catching the ball in the glove, doing the things you're in control of. The third one is the umpire. Okay, what the umpire calls should not affect what you do. And that's a trap we all are guilty of falling into sometimes. I know we did last year. I know I have in my career, but we've got to make sure this year we do not play based off of what the umpire's calling. Okay? Because that's not in our controllable. Bad day, teammates, the pitcher. Yeah. Hey, lefty pitcher, righty pitcher. You guys psych yourself out so much when a lefty gets on the mound. Or maybe the guy's throwing a little bit harder. Or maybe his arm slot's a little bit sidearm, right? Those are all distractions from the pitcher. Why don't we just focus on seeing the ball out of the hand? Why don't we focus on seeing the ball through a tunnel? Why don't we focus on really just locking in on the ball itself? Because you're trying to control hitting the ball, not hitting the pitcher. Okay, you guys are talking about like friends in the dugout, teammates. Can somebody give me more detail into that? Because I think you guys can leverage each other to help each other play better. I think you guys can use each other as a resource. For example, I get out and I struck out, but I saw one of the pitches the pitcher threw that he didn't throw in warmups. Maybe I'm walking back to the dugout, letting the next batter know, or letting the guys in the dugout what I saw. Maybe I'm letting them know a pitch that he threw we didn't see before, or what it actually looked like seeing it from the box compared to seeing it from the dugout. That could be a great one. How fast the pitcher's throwing, the distance of the fence. Yeah, goofing around. Definitely. Can I be honest too, guys? Sometimes the amount of outs can be a distraction. Sometimes you guys put too much pressure on yourself with two outs. That's a distraction. That's not allowing you to hit the ball in the middle. It's not allowing you to do your job. And we should definitely be aware of the count. But once you have an approach, then forget about the count. Okay, two strikes. It counts 0-2. Okay, I'm gonna go to my two strike approach. That's what I'm thinking. But now that I've committed to my approach, I'm forgetting about the count. I'm just sticking to the approach. Because the more you think about two strikes, two strikes, two strikes, from my own experience, the more I have a chance to think about striking out. Right. And so again, it's at the end of the day, before it's time to go, before it's time to take action and swing the bat and throw the ball and catch the ball, whatever it is, before the pitch is made, it's locking in on one thing and the one thought that's going to help you perform the best. Give you another one. When you start overthinking about mechanics in your at bat in the game, usually it doesn't end up going so well. Okay, a good time to kind of rehearse on mechanics is on deck, thinking about what you were working on in the practice sessions. But when it's time to get in the box, you cannot overly analyze mechanics. And at that point, it's got to be more about your timing, seeing the ball off the bat, and trusting your approach. All right, being aggressive, attacking a pitch in your zone that you like. But you start thinking about your mechanics while also trying to figure out if it's a ball or strike, while also trying to figure out if it's a fastball or curveball. That's a recipe for swing and a miss almost every time. There's no way you can focus on those three things at once when the ball comes in the blink of an eye, and you got to be able to time that thing up. You guys with me on that one? All right, so I want to keep moving along here on my notes. Um, so essentially, what we're talking about is the result of you, how well you play. It's a byproduct of what you're focusing on. It's a byproduct of the process. Okay. I talked, I think I told you guys last year, real brief, or last session, last month. I told you real quickly, like my best game and my worst game. Okay, my worst game, I had four strikeouts in a row in one game. Super embarrassing. My best game, I had two home runs in one game. I think I went like 3 for 5. But on the best game that I had in my 4 years in playing pro ball, I wasn't playing real good beforehand. I was not. And so I was working really hard in my practice sessions, training sessions, taking my swings before the games. But what I was trying to do is get out of a slump. The last thing I was thinking about was hitting a home run. And I had one thought. And what I had been working on with my coaches was to get my timing down by hitting the ball more out in front. That was my only thought. So I got up to the plate with that one thought of whatever happens here, I'm going to make contact more out in front. I don't care if I'm out. I don't care the result. I've got to hit the ball out in front. And sure enough, I got a decent pitch. I hit the ball out in front of the ball and over the fence. Okay. And so again, when that happened, it was not me trying to hit a home run. And when I got into my second at bat, guess what I tried to do? The same exact thing. There's no reason to change that approach. I had done something that worked and I figured it out and I wanted to go repeat it. And when you guys get into your games this season, when you're doing something that works, stay in that zone. Repeat the process. Okay. There is no need to change up when you're doing something that works, whether that's you hitting in the game or throwing strikes in the game. The time to adjust is when we're failing, when you're throwing a ball or walking batters. Okay, when you're striking out or not making contact, those are the times to adjust. But it was the one thing that allowed the best results. And then again, the second at bat for me, I focused on the same exact thing and I hit a second home run. Now, look, is this going to work every time? No, otherwise I'd be in the major leagues. I wouldn't be here talking to you guys today, right? It's not going to work every time. But the point is, you're going to be able to focus better in the game and the pressure situations when you don't overwhelm yourself. Simplify to that one thing. And here's the thing, obviously, I don't have the answer for you guys every at bat to have success. I don't think anybody does. I don't think that exists. But like, for example, for me in that story and like my game there, what I did have were some things that weren't the answer. Okay. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull back to my notes here on what we're talking about so I don't lose my train of thought. I think it's worth mentioning I did not have to fix my whole swing. And that's probably the biggest thing that we struggle with as hitters. We think it's our swing, right? And so again, I'll tell you that story just letting you know it wasn't my whole swing. It was one thought of my timing of hitting the ball in front. But not only was it not my swing, guess what it also wasn't? It wasn't the type of bat I was using, right? It wasn't who was pitching. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about what team we were playing. It wasn't about how tight my batting gloves were, right? Or what flavor sunflower seeds I had before the game, right? It wasn't about anything else other than that one minor adjustment. Minor adjustment. But back to probably the most common one, you think it's your swing or maybe the bat you're using or something like that, right? They're just distractions. So, in summary, guys, we're trying to be able to to first acknowledge we have control of our thoughts. We have that power. Everybody here has the power to do that. We have the ability to do that. We have the ability to focus on the right things, not the wrong things, right? Not the distractions. And again, last week, one of your goals, not looking left or right of you as well. All these things kind of connect. It's like if you were really thinking about that over the last 4 months, don't look left or right of you. You've already practiced on what we're talking about today without even knowing it. You've already practiced on eliminating distractions. You guys see how everything kind of starting to come full circle and connect? All right. Okay, we're gonna for like the last 20 minutes or so, I want to dive into some good thoughts for you guys so you can apply this season per your position, whether you're on offense, defense, base runner, whatever. We're gonna kind of go through a list here, and this can be a really good just summary. So make sure you guys are paying attention here, and even take some notes would honestly be pretty beneficial for you. Anybody have any questions? Put any questions you have in the chat so far about anything I talked about so far. Any questions about that very simple like tactic that we're going to try to use as far as how to focus better? Okay, it's not real confusing. We got to eliminate distractions and think about what can we control. Quality at bats. I want you guys all to use that one. One thing as well, guys, I might have to, my timer's at 7:30. If it kicks me off, I'll just jump back in like it happened last time. I don't know why, for whatever reason, it kicks me off at 30 minutes. I'll just jump right back in. It should be good. All right, question for you guys. I want to get three answers before I move on to this one. What are good thoughts as a hitter? What would be a good thought as a hitter in the game? To help you have a good at bat, help you get a base hit, help you have a quality at bat. Solid contact, telling yourself you can do this, seeing it in, right? Tracking that ball in all the way, trust in yourself. Like we're training for 4 months, twice a week. It's a pretty long time, right? And for you guys to not have trust when the game starts, it's kind of like there should be no reason you should be telling yourself that. When you get into your season, guys, after how much you've trained for how many weeks consistently, you should have all the trust in the world that you're capable of doing it because of how much you've actually put in. Pitcher throws curveballs, 2 strikes, take advantage of it, make contact, square it up. I like it. I like that you're talking about the process, something you can control. For me, though, it was this. I talked about one example with hitting the ball in front, and I think with what we're working on with a lot of you guys in the cage, you're going to hear some of this stuff. It's not going to be brand new to you, but you want to be aggressive early in the count and attack a fastball in your zone. Okay, that in a nutshell is going to be your best approach. Be aggressive early in the counts and look for a fastball in your zone. Now, what do I mean by in your zone? That means something you like. It doesn't mean it has to be right down the middle. You might be a good inside pitch hitter. You might be a good low pitch hitter. If that's in your area and that's a pitch that you like, go get it. It does not have to be perfectly down the middle. The reality is you're not going to get a whole lot of pitches that are perfectly down the middle because throwing strikes is still hard for the pitchers, right? But be aggressive early on a fastball. This goes for any age, and this was the same for me my whole career. You really should not be looking for a curveball early in the count or even thinking about hitting a curveball early in the count. If you get a first pitch curveball, it's okay to take that. Okay, it's okay to take those pitches. Probably more times than not, you're going to be chasing a bad curveball in the first strike than swinging at a good one. And if you are sitting curveball, they're going to blow the fastball by you. All right. A pitcher's job is to do what? Go ahead, put down on the chat. What's a pitcher's job right at the beginning of the at bat? Generally speaking, get ahead. Yep, excellent. Let's get ahead in the count. Okay. Getting ahead, all that means is you have more strikes than balls. Behind in the count means there's more balls than strikes. Simple as that. Get ahead in the count. And their best chance to get ahead in the count is by throwing a fastball early on. All right. And so if that's their approach, let's be ready for that. We did some live at bats on Sunday with some of our teams. And, there's fastballs that are down the middle and we're looking at them and not swinging. And then there's pitchers throwing really good off-speed pitches, like our older age group. I know I saw some of them, guys throwing really good curveballs with some good break on it. And then those are hard to hit, right? So like when you look back on the at bat, when you think about what was your best pitch to hit, it's the first fastball you took when you thought you were just in there to kind of see the timing. The the time for you as a hitter to look for the timing of the pitch is when you're watching him warm up or when you're on deck. I promise, the longer you play, you don't need to be in the box to see the timing of the fastball. My only exception to that is very first pitch of the game. But like sometimes we're seeing guys see a pitcher in a game and then they go up for their second at bat and it's the same pitcher and they're still up there watching to see the timing. When you see a pitcher at least already for one at bat, you do not need to be in there looking anymore. You need to be in there swinging. You need to be in there finding your pitch to drive and attack. All right. So again, your thoughts as a hitter early in the count or attack a fastball in early in the count. Okay, that's our approach. We're not worrying about hitting an off-speed pitch early. And here's the other thing. If you don't like hitting an off-speed pitch, if you don't like hitting a good changeup or a good curveball, don't miss the fastball when it's there. That's the best way to hit the curveball, to be honest with you. Don't miss the fastball when the pitcher throws you one early on to get a chance to rip it. All right, I'm telling you, that's the best way. Now, once you get to a two-strike approach, okay, then we're shifting up our thoughts. Then it's not so much about attacking a fastball in my zone. Now it's more about opening up, covering from, not even just edge to edge of home plate, but even a little bit extra, even like I like to say a ball length outside and inside of home plate. Sometimes when you hit in the cages, we have the white lines of the batter's box. I like to say anything in between the white lines, you got to be able to cover because we all know the umpire is going to call strike three sometimes on a pitch that's still a couple inches outside at least, right? And so with that two-strike approach, now we're opening up, we're shortening our step, we're trying to shorten our swing and our path to the ball so we have quick hands. We're trying to shorten our load. And I'm a big fan of choking up as well for you guys, right? Do something that allows you to have more control of your barrel and make the bat a little lighter. When you choke up an inch, it gives you the ability to do that. Then if you go a little closer to home plate, now you're not worried about not reaching the outside corner pitch. I think all of those things add up to a good two-strike approach. And then lastly, and probably the most important one, be aggressive to the opposite field side. So if you're a righty hitter, a great thought is to crush the second baseman. Crush a ball right at the second baseman if you're a righty hitter. If you're a lefty hitter, crush a ball right at the shortstop. And so again, you're being aggressive to the opposite field side. And when you think about doing that, you're staying in your back leg longer, you're staying balanced, and you're attacking the inside part of the ball. We talk about that a lot in our hitting sessions. Attack the inside part of the ball. And that gives you the best approach to hit an off-speed pitch, and also still be ready for a fastball. All right, so those are two hitting thoughts as hitters. Base runners, right? Here's again a good, very basic. This is what you should be thinking when you're a base runner in the game. Number one, you get on first base and the pitcher gets back on the mound. Get your lead early. Okay, get your lead early enough so you have time to get set and then either dive back if he picks off or get your secondary or steal if the steal sign's on. If the steal sign is on, really, even if the steal sign's not on, when the pitcher's set, you're locking your eyes in on the pitcher's heels. Okay, front heel and back heel. As soon as he lifts that front heel up, you guys are doing what? Stealing. He lifts the back heel, you're going back. Right? He lifts the back heel, that's him going to pick off. Now, put in the chat, what if the steal sign's not on and he lifts his front heel? What are you still doing right away? Hopefully. Getting a what? We're getting a good, Harrison. Big secondary lead. Logan, good. Rest of you guys, good. And that's something I think we need to work on better in practice. When we do like some situations, whether that be infield with base runners or how we did our live at bats on Sunday with some teams, even if you're not stealing, you're not just sitting there. Okay. The pitcher goes home, you're now increasing your secondary lead. And then from there, you should be anticipating a pass ball. Anticipate a pass ball. All right. That way, everybody here, I promise, no, everybody in our organization is fast enough to be safe at the next base on a pass ball if you go early enough. Everybody's fast enough to get there, but you can't hesitate. Okay. And then obviously you're knowing how many outs there are. Okay. Ball in the air, you're reading it. Ball on the ground, you're going. 2 outs, you're going on contact no matter what. Things like that. You got to have a framework for how your mind's going to think when you're on the base path. Okay, so we talked about hitting, we talked about base running, infielders. What could I be thinking as an infielder? Can you guys put it in the chat? What could I be thinking as an infielder? What are like just good basic thoughts in any situation? Getting ready position, definitely. Keep the ball in front, be ready. Assume the ball's coming to you. I like that a lot. Okay, Jay, that's what I was looking for. Jay said it. Where am I going to go with the ball if it's hit to me? That's the main thing. Nobody on, nobody out. That's easy. Everybody's going to first, you know that. But like in these situations, or maybe it's first and third, 1 out, right? Like there's just different options. So you've got to know where are the runners and what are the outs? Where am I going to go with the ball if I get it? Outfielders, it's the same thing. Okay, I was an outfielder. When I got to high school, I was primary outfielder. That was my only position. And so when you're playing outfield, okay, when there's guys on base, for example, let's say you're playing, it could be center, left, or right, and there's a base runner on second base. Guys, you're always assuming the base runner is going 2 bases. So you're always presetting in your mind, I'm throwing 2 bases in advance to where that runner is, not one. All right. Typically, like a guy on second, we don't want him to score. So you're getting it into the cutoff as fast as you can. That's on a base hit through the infield. Now, let's say there's a guy on second base. I'm playing center field. Deep fly ball that I catch. Now he's tagging up. Now I know it's 1 base. So if I catch the ball in the air, I'm throwing 1 base in advance. If I catch the ball on the ground, then I'm throwing 2 bases in advance. Again, you're always thinking about what are the responsibilities of your position. I'm the right fielder. I always need to back up first base every single time. And here's the other thing, guys. This is going to happen this season, I guarantee you, and it's going to happen multiple times. And it's okay, but we're going to try to eliminate this. When there's action at first base, for example, a pickoff to first base, and the pitcher makes a bad throw and throws it over the first baseman's head, and it rolls down the line and hits the fence and keeps going. The right fielder needs to be there. So it's not just a ground ball in the infield that you're backing up first base. It's any action at all. Any ball thrown to first base. Could be from the catcher on a bunt is a big one. Could be from the pitcher on a pickoff is a big one. Could be any time at all. What to do if the ball doesn't come to you where you're backing up? Yep, exactly. Okay. Outfielders and infielders, we kind of covered that. Infielders, where you're going with the ball is obviously really, really crucial. Here's another thing, infielders. When there's a guy on first base, what have we been working on as the second baseman and shortstop? We want to be at what? We want to adjust our positioning to a, starts with a D, double play depth. You guys remember that? Double play depth. Good. Which means I am 2 steps closer to second base than I normally am. That's all that means. But again, I'm not going to be at double play depth if I haven't already preset my thoughts and checked before the pitch where the runner's at. What's my responsibility? These things don't happen in the middle of the play. They happen beforehand. And if you're not ready beforehand with where you're trying to go with the ball, it's way too hard to figure it out in the midst of it. It's way too hard to figure it out after the ball's already hit to you. And that's when you panic and that's when mistakes start to happen. Right? And so again, if you want to play a little bit looser, a little freer, a little more comfortably, prepare yourself mentally so you know where the ball is going to go when it's hit to you. And now you can just focus on that. Now you can just focus on the catch or the throw, or again, what we talked about from the very, very beginning of the call, the process itself, right? The process itself of what it is you're trying to do becomes a lot easier. All right, last positions, pitchers we didn't talk about. All right, and so if I'm a pitcher now, let's talk about pitchers just from a perspective of being able to throw a strike, right? And so we hinted at that your job is to get ahead in the counts, right? Get ahead with a fastball early, and that's something we're still staying consistent with. Okay, like first pitch curveball. Some of you guys of the older age group, that's going to happen. We're gonna do that as long as you're in control of those pitches. That's fine. But guys, for our teams that are 11U and younger, even 12U and younger, man, we still should be getting ahead with the fastball more than 90% of the time. Okay, we really should. And then if we get strike one with a fastball, then all right, let's see if we want to try a changeup or a curveball at that point in time. That would be okay. Or maybe let's mix up location. Maybe let's now, instead of going fastball middle, I have them 0-1. Let's go fastball low and away or up and in. Let's hit a spot. But we've got to be able to get ahead in the count, and we're just thinking up when we're set and it's time to pitch, you're only locked in on the mitt. The biggest distraction for a pitcher is looking at the batter or thinking about how good the batter is. That's such a distraction. Or maybe even worrying about if he's a lefty or a righty. Guys, you cannot have in your head that you don't throw well to lefties or don't throw well to righties. You're not throwing to the batter. I promise you, when you really lock in on the mitt, you're throwing to the catcher. You're not throwing to the batter. And if it's a struggle for you, I wouldn't even look at the batter's eyes. Just to remind yourself that you're so locked in on just the mitt. Don't even make eye contact with the batter. You are only taking your mind back to the warm-up sessions before the inning started. Because so many of you guys here, we get into our warm-ups and it's boom, fastball down the middle, pound the mitt, pound the mitt, pound the mitt, 3 in a row, 4 in a row. You guys are grooving it. And then the first batter gets in there and all of a sudden it changes because you have the perspective that you're throwing to the batter, not to the mitt. That's probably the biggest thing that distracts us. And here's another thing, pitchers. It's okay to hit the guy. It's okay to come in on the inside corner. Most of us are missing away from the plate because we're worried about hitting the guy, right? It's okay to attack the inside part of the mitt and inside part of the strike zone. And it's okay if you hit a batter. It's part of the game. You're not a bad person, right? But we as coaches, we want you to stay aggressive with attacking the zone and even the inner part of the zone. And if you feel like the batter's a little close and you throw a fastball inside, he might back up a little bit, right? And so again, it's one of those things where you are just focusing on your pitch, your zone, you and the catcher to the mitt. We want you guys being just as aggressive as pitchers as hitters. And that's how you win championships. The teams that win championships in the tournaments, they don't win them by just accidentally getting there, right? They play aggressively. They're trying to score runs. They're trying to make outs. They're trying to make pitches and make strikes. You got to be intentional with this game because it's a tough game to play. If you kind of just go through the motions are gonna they're gonna overtake, and then that's when we're gonna fall into the trap of the game of failure. Because again, it is the game of failure. We talked about that last session, right? Throwing strikes isn't easy. Getting a hit isn't easy. You go 3 for 10, you're failing 70% of the time. You do that consistently, you're in the Hall of Fame, right? And so we got to be aggressive is what this all comes down to. And so, guys, I'm going to wrap it up with that. We're at our time here. If anybody has any questions before we go, you can put it in the chat. I'll check in on it. And I'll send out the recording as well, like I did for the last one. Hope you guys got something out of this. Doing this for you guys. I want to see everybody here do well. I want to see everybody here have everything they need to have the best season they can this year and have the most fun. And again, any of this stuff that I'm talking about or that we're talking about in practice, don't hesitate to come up to me or other coaches and talk to us about it. And we want to elevate your game as much as anybody. All right. All right. Thanks, guys.